Horse and musket, fistful of lead. You guys know what we're doing. We are going to be playing scenario number 6 from this rulebook, Maelstrom. By the way, this is the only rulebook you need. This is part of the Fistful of Lead lineup. This is the generic rules that you can kind of complement with your own made-up rules. If you want to play Horse and Musket era skirmish, this gives you everything you need, including a number of wonderful scenarios. We are going to be doing the Napoleonic era, and a 5-on-5 is a little weird for the Napoleonic era, so the scenario that I have selected is called Maelstrom. The battlefield will be broken up into 9 sectors. Now, if you're playing this against an opponent, you will take turns putting one piece of terrain in each of these quadrants. The goal is that we're going to put a British leader down in here and a French leader up here, and they have to escape off the opposite side of the table. Their friends are going to be just start the game in one of these squares. They basically got to collect them, got to catch them all, and then get off to the south. Now, I'm not going to do the alternating terrain placement because I'm playing solo, so that little mini game, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm going to try to outsmart myself. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that this is kind of the aftermath, or there's a wide battle going on, and a couple of leaders have been sent out to round up some stragglers. At the end of every turn, we're going to roll for a bombardment. We are going to check to see who gets bombarded. We'll roll a d10. On a 0, it lands off the table. On a 1 through 9, that is the section of the table that the bombardment lands in. We're going to roll the scatter die. Actually, what we'll do is roll a d10, and the direction that the d points will tell us the direction that that template scatters, and then the number we roll, wait a minute, we're going to roll again. Once we know which one of these it is, we're going to roll again for scatter from the center, both distance in inches and direction, using that scatter die. Now, if you are, the one funny thing here is it just says, hey, the center of the, let me see if I can get it to focus here. Is caught between the 5-inch template, the corresponding square, the point of the die shows the direction. If 10 is rolled, player with fierce, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to do that. But it doesn't say what actually happens. Wait, it just says a template lands. So what I'm going to do is, if you are within 1.5 inches of that point that we identify, any model within 1.5 inches of that point will have to make a wound roll on a 5-up. Any model that is called 1.5 to 2.5 inches away will have to make a wound roll on an 8-up. So if you're close to it, it's more likely you're going to have to make a wound roll. As I said, we are not going to be doing the alternating activation for terrain placement. I am going to use these lovely, period-specific, Fistful of Lead horse and musket cards. What I like about these cards, we take the jokers out. They have the rules on them. Go first if you have the King of Spades. Well, that one's easy. But some of these, for example, Marie Antoine Spade here, recover from shaken. Whichever figure activates with this Queen of Spades, you lose the shaken token. Whichever unit figure activates on a Queen of Hearts recovers 1 wound. Hey, and in fact, if you're laying down on one of these cards, you stand up. Now, for the purposes of, and there's a couple of others, we may see them, we may not. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. For the purposes of terrain, what I'm going to do is shuffle these up, and I'm going to deal them out. I want to do random terrain placement. Just makes it a lot easier to kind of figure to put things down. So let me shuffle these up, and I'll deal them out. And the way we do random terrain placement, I've got a little chart here. I'm going to deal out. Let me cut these just so you know everything's on the up and up, and this is to keep myself honest. I'm going to deal out a total of, and I can flip them over as we go. Black cards will be a terrain feature. Red cards will not. So we deal them out 4x4 for 16. We got an average of 8 terrain features, and wow, kind of a crowded battlefield today. The 3 will be a swamp, and we can pull out these red cards. These are nothing. And here, this is essentially what our battlefield will look like. We're going to have a swamp up here. We're going to have a pond over here. We're going to have, what do we got? 4. This will be a plowed field. We're going to have some, oh, get rid of you two. The face cards, what do we got? We got a jack, that's a house. We got a 7, that's woods. 7s, 8s, 6, 7, and 8s are woods. So we've got woods. The 9s are going to be hills. So kind of a nice cluttered battlefield that'll make it easier for our guys to sneak out. Let me get the train set up. We'll be right back. Random terrain placement gives us a nice mix. We've got some wide open areas over here and over here with some heavy terrain kind of through the center. Terrain effects, very simple. All the trees block line of sight. The trees that are on the forest stands, these stands, you can only see 1 inch into or through them. Likewise with the hills, you can see 1 inch to the top, you can see 1 inch across the crest, and then basically 1 inch within the crest. Beyond that line, you can't be seen. All of the terrain pieces that you can walk across are difficult ground. They slow movement by half, with the exception of these swamps. Now, this was supposed to be a pond. Swamp is the same thing. We're going to call that, you cannot cross the swamps at all, and they do not block line of sight, nor, as you might expect, do the plowed fields. I have already placed our leaders. The British leader is here. That is Captain Tommy Hill. And he is trying to gather up his bros and get off that side of the table. The game will end. And likewise, the French, Robert Legimbeau, is trying to get his bros together and get off the southern edge. The game will end as soon as one side has everybody off the board, either dead or escaped. The points are going to go like this. At the end of the turn, we're going to see how many figures are within 6 inches of the leader. That leader will score 1 point for every figure. That's pretty much it. But we have to figure out where our boys are going to start from. And we're going to start with the French. This is Sapper Joe on the left, standing up on this hill. We're just going to go right across. French, Brit, French, Brit. Sapper Joe is going to start, and our numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. On a 0, you get to decide. So on number 7, Sapper Joe is going to start down here, and he's going to start up. We'll put him right about there. Now, as we move forward, if I roll a 4 or a 7, the British colorman, Sergeant Martin Dart, can't set up within 6 inches of an enemy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can set up in the center of the battlefield. He's going to start right here as close as he can to his leader. The next Frenchman is going to be Mathieu Kirkard. He is an eagle eye, which means he has extra range. I should point out, because of the battlefield, sight is limited to 12 inches. All gunfire is limited by half. There must be a battery somewhere just upwind that's just raining clouds over this battlefield. We rolled a 4 for Mathieu Kirkard. He has a musket, which means he's going to start. I think we'll put him right next to Sapper Joe. I guess Sapper Joe was collecting some guys. And then it's going to be... Okay, so now we have... Remember, it's 6 inches from an ally. So now we have a situation where our hand-to-hand specialist, this figure is an artilleryman who's carrying what amounts to a club. He can start anywhere in terrain piece 4. He's going to start up here on the hill. Now, because he's further than an inch from the edge here, he is out of sight of these guys, these Frenchmen, and he is more than 6 inches away. So that's fine. Our next Frenchman is going to be Corporal Rouge Savant. He is a weaponsmith. He ignores weapon malfunctions. And he is going to start in terrain number 5, so we'll put him as close to his leader as we can. Then we have the British Corporal Mann Jr., who starts way up here, and that might be a problem. We'll put him at least 12 inches away so none of these Frenchies can see him. We've got one more Frenchman. This is Charles Letourneau, who is a Deadeye. He gets +1 to his shoot skill, and he's got to start over here as well. Wow, the French are just crushing it over here, man. We're going to put him like right there, I guess. And then the British are, we're going to get, this is Samuel Guest, who is steady. He ignores all penalties due to shock and wound rolls. And he is also going to start, oh boy, we got to do some measuring, way up north. Well, actually, that's not so bad, is it? We're going to put him, he's got to be 6 inches away, and he's got to be in this square. Which means he's going to start right at the corner of the house there. That way, just around the corner. That way he's hiding, and we are ready to start the game. A rather interesting setup. A lot of chaos and confusion here, with the French largely clustered over here, but there's a line of British, kind of a V-shaped line, separating the leader and who was that? That's Charles Letourneau? No. That is Rouge Savant over there. from their compatriots down here. So it's really going to depend on the cards that come up, and we are going to cut the deck, and I'm going to deal out 5 cards for the French, 3, 4, 5. Because the British commander is a strategist, he is going to get 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then the British commander gets to select one of these cards and to discard, and he gets to use the rest. We'll take the free reload, and I guess we'll get rid of the lowest card. So here is our British hand, and I'll bring our French hand down here to the corner so you can see that as well. The French have gotten a very good hand here, and they are going to get to go first. We're going to use the Jack. So we nominate any kings, any queens, any jacks. We've got 2 jacks, so we're going to start with the boss man, who's going to move 16 inches. He is on a horse, so he's going to go the 4, and he's going to go to right here. So he is within 6 inches of a couple of his guys already. That is 2 actions. That is his first card. But he also has a second jack, and this jack gets a +1 to close combat. So we could charge him, but instead I'm going to go ahead and just move him. Oh, if he attacks, but he doesn't have anybody within attacking distance. So we're just going to race him over here to 10 inches. And that's it for the jacks. Now, as a solo game, this may not work out as well as it does. It's fine. Wiley Games has solo rules. I need to download those. We'll implement those at some point. But for today, we're just seeing how the game works. We call out any 10s. Nobody's got 10s. Any 9s. Now we've got a couple of 9s. And the British have the 9 of spades. The spades go first. Remember, it's reverse alphabetical order. Let me move that die out of the way. So the British have a difficult choice to make as far as who do you want to move first. They can, and they don't know what the rest of this hand is over here. All they know is that one of the figures is going to go first, and then a French figure is going to go. So they can move. Now remember, if you don't want to brain yourself, you're moving at half speed. So maybe starting on top of the hill was not the best for this guy. I think perhaps, boy, the French are just going to race right off this battlefield. This is an interesting battle, but I think the way the dice came up is just going to badly hurt the British. Because our leader is going to go ahead and move the 10 inches up to here, and that's where he's going to stop. Captain Tommy Hill, that's the best he can do. And then the French are going to go, and the French say, you know what, that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and move a guy to here, and I'm done with my 9. We've got 4 guys already that are within the 6 inches. Then we call out any 7s, and oh look, the French get to go again, and is anybody within 12 inches? We've got 1, well, he already moved though, didn't he? So that might be a problem. We've got a couple of shots over there. We can move within 6 inches. We're gonna bring him over to here and call that good. And then the rest of the British get to go, before finally that last Frenchman gets to go. So what do the British want to do? I think the best bet here is going to be, let's start off by moving up so we got a shot right here. Let's start with our sniper. He's going to aim and he's going to fire, which means we have to put our reload. Now it takes 2 complete actions to reload your weapon. He is at 12 inches. It's at the extreme limit of his range. But that is a rifle, so he has to hit on an 8 up. And that's pretty much all there is to taking that shot. But because he's aiming, that's going to be a 7 up in this case. And he rolls a 9, so he does get the hit on Charles. Is he the Deadeye? No, he's the weaponsmith, isn't he? Or is that Matthew? I'm sorry, this is Charles in the sniper position. He's the Deadeye. The guy standing steady is the weaponsmith. And he's got the eagle eye, so he's got an increased range, not that it doesn't much good. So we're shooting at Matthew Kirkhart here. These names should all sound vaguely familiar if you ever read the comment sections. That is a hit. Now, there's no armor check here, so we move right on to the wound roll. And with a result of a 7, that is a wounded. So we drop a little wounded marker down, and he says, oh, and he falls to the ground. Oh, we can get rid of these. We're done with the quarters. With the sections, the 9 sections, and that is going to be the end of his turn. So now we have the Brit's turn, and if we want to move twice to get down the hill, that's going to cost us both actions to move our Brute to there. Our Flagman is going to use both. He's going to use both of his actions to come up to the commander, and then we've got one more guy who can use both of his actions to sidle on down along to here and put himself. He needs to come around the corner here to within 6 inches of the commander, and that becomes. And then we've got one last move, so we'll pull this guy. We'll pull Sapper Joe back just a little bit, and we're done. Now we have to tally up some scores, and what you'll find is that you've got, well, wait a minute, he's wounded. Oh, no, we're not ready for that yet. We have to check our bombardment. We roll a d10, and on a result of an 8, we have a cannon shot that falls right in the center of this section right here. And then it scatters, and we'll spin it nice and good. We'll spin it on the board as close to the point as we can, and it scatters 9 inches this way. So it lands here, and as you can see, there's no one within 5 inches, so the bombardment has no effect for this turn. Now we can do the scores. And the British have scored a total of 3 points to, well, wait a second. So there's 3 points to the Brits. I'm going to put 3 chips down on the British roster, and I'm going to put 3 chips down on the French, and I'm going to check the rules. You score 1 point for everyone within 6 inches of the leader. As you can see, oh, we pulled him a little too far. He's within 6 inches. We did that on purpose. As you can see, the French have all 4 guys. The French stand at 4. The British only have 3 guys within close to their detachment leader. And that is going to be a problem for the British, because if the French just race off the field, the British are absolutely going to lose. That might color how things go on this second turn. Meanwhile, the French just want to get everybody off the table. They're up by 1. They can win the game. And here's where clever scenario design changes your routine, line them up, and throw them at each other into a much more interesting strategic fight. So we'll cut the cards, and we'll deal out 5 to the French. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the British. And the British say, you know what, I don't care about that too. We got to move quick. This time, it looks like the first move is going to go to, hey, who's got a king? Well, aces are wild. So we've got 2 aces that are both going to operate as kings, but we have to then look at, let me pull these out of the way, we'll bring them down just at the bottom of the screen so you can see them. I think that's pretty good right there. All right, so the Ace of Hearts is the British first turn. And we really don't have a whole lot we can do we? Hey, you should be facing that way there, Clubber Lang. John Scar with the big club. So I think maybe now our leader could move 5 inches and take a pistol shot. I see that big a jerk. Do we shoot at the guy that's laying on the ground? That may be the way to do it. Yep, leader says, hey, you might be able to beat me in points, but I'm going to take that pistol shot. Pistols have a range of, I should probably check this before I do this. Pistols have a range of only 3 inches. Is he close enough? He's not gonna, he's gonna have to bend around to here. And he's not gonna be able to get within 3 inches. So maybe what we should do is we could run our bannermen over there, but then we want to have a second action for the melee attack. Yeah, the British are in trouble here. They get to go first, but they don't really have any way of stopping the French from getting off the table. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll actually open fire with Samuel Guest. He's going to take a shot, and we'll put a reload marker down for him, and he's going to shoot at the guy laying on the ground. Now, he doesn't have any bonuses for this. He is within 12 inches. He's got a 16-inch range. He's only going to hit on an 8-up, and we roll a 9, so he gets the hit, even if you have, because he's firing at a prone target. So that's another wound roll there. And that wound roll is going to come up as a 4, which is a shaken. So we have a little... Now he's shaken. That's going to be a problem for them. Then we say, whoa, 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 we got an ace here. What are we going to do? And we'll stand up our wounded fella. To do that, he's going to use all of his actions to make a recovery roll. And he does have a leader within 12 inches. Does the leadership skill only apply if you've got line of sight? I should also check the wounded and shaken miniature. You can try to recover, but it will only remove the shaken status. So that means it won't... The first ace was a king. The second ace, the smart play here, is to use it as a queen of hearts. That allows this figure to stand up, remove 1 wound, and, since we're on the queens, we get 2 actions. 2 different guys are going to go. So this French guy, now, what are you going to do? He can use both of his actions to remove the shock. This shock marker is going to reduce his movement by 1 inch, but he might as well just go ahead and race the 8 inches to get into safety. If he runs over here, then he has managed to get out of the path of danger. Our queen goes next, and for that, we'll bring our leader 10 inches over to the very corner of the table. Kind of bring him down here. Now, he wants to stay within 6 inches of his wounded compatriot, but that's about it, because the French plan for the rest of this turn is going to be very simple. And I think the British there's nothing they can do. I think the game is over, but we'll just kind of show you how this plays. Oh, I forgot this king too. Hey, there's another king over here. Why didn't we use that one? We used the aces. What's that king gonna do? That king is gonna be this leader moving to within 6 inches of his buddy over there. And then we have 9. We have a 10, which is gonna be racing this British figure over to there. He is outside of 6 inches. Bum, bum, bum. That will be a problem. You'll see why in a minute. The 10 will be to race up 8 inches, staying within 6 inches of the leader there. And then these 3 guys are basically all going to run down and stay just on the table. So we got a little cluster of French down here. And these guys are all going to move up to here. So we score 4 points for the British, 4 points for the French. The score is now 7-8. And on the next turn, what you'll find happens is both sides will clear the field, and the victory is going to be a marginal victory to the French. That is probably the least bloody miniature war game scenario I've ever played. I thought it was going to take a whole lot longer than it did, but to be fair, that's because an awful lot of the strategy was conducted or came into play if you will, during the setup. The dice rolls really came up to the benefit of the French when it came to time to consolidate their forces. Because they were able to have such an easy time getting all 4 guys near the leader with a clear path off the southern end of the battlefield, it really put the British behind the 8 ball. And I think they did the best they could with what they had. That 12-inch visibility was a killer for them. it meant that they had very little ability to affect the French withdrawal from the battlefield. Sometimes that's just the way these battles go. And the fact that we didn't have a whole lot of bloodshed is not something that I consider a detriment. I think that this is a valid exercise to go through, and I'm still looking forward to giving this a more traditional war game attempt. What we may do, and one, again, I circle back around to the fact that we are playing a Napoleonic war game. And how do you mix cavalry units with foot units? You know, I've got a dragoon, 2 line guys. What is this guy over here? I think is he line? You know, with a cuirassier. Now I put the leader on a horse, right, as one does. I think in my next fight, what I want to see happen is we'll go with cavalrymen versus foot troopers. Bear in mind, the cavalrymen are all going to be on horses. They're all going to have a little bit of a benefit there, but they're spending a lot of their points on the horses. So we'll see how well this game balances out when you've got maybe a king of the hill, right? Maybe some dismounted dragoons have left their horses behind and they're charging to take over a hill, where you've got 5 lancers that are headed to try and take that same hill. I can see a lot of possibilities for a lot of fun with this game, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I know we did a double episode this time around. You know, we had a Fistful of Thursdays, and today is Fistful of Friday. Next week, I think we'll just do the one. I'll set up everything off camera, and then we'll just throw some cavalrymen at some foot troopers and see how Fistful of Lead, Horse, and Musket holds up to a game like that. Quick and easy wargaming rules set in the era of black powder. I'm so here for it. I'm praying for you.